Wet's getting too hot. Barrichello can hack it on the wet track with the slicks, just squeezing that throttle oh so gently as he now heads into his final lap, taking the go-kart line around the outside, using all the old bits of tyre and debris to find that extra grip that you have in these slimy conditions. And the Ferrari mechanics running to the pit wall, Murray.
If you believe in Ferrari, get down and pray, because Rubens Barrichello is on his last lap in what looks like being a magnificent first ever and absolutely brilliant victory. The gap between himself and Hakkinen has been reduced marginally, but is still over 11 seconds as you watch the Finn coming home for what looks like a certain 6 World Championship points, which could have been 10.
Yes, talk about damage limitation. Certainly with Michael Schumacher out the first corner, this is the best Ferrari could have hoped for. Is a virtuoso performance from Barrichello, and he really has given it to them, hasn't he? Those overtaking manoeuvres, albeit with a lighter car in the first part of the race, were sensational, and he had the confidence to stay out on the racetrack. There's Michael Schumacher watching the action, and the fastest man on the track by miles is actually Jenson Button, who just took 2.5 seconds out of Coulthard on the last lap, and will be giving him a real hurry up to the line for that final podium place.
And if I'm right with my mental arithmetic, amazingly, Michael Schumacher is still going to be leading the World Championship at the end of this race. Rubens Barrichello is into the stadium for the 45th and last time. He turns into the slow turn 12 left-hander. He can almost feel a wonderful victory as he comes down to the last 2 right-handers. You are watching a sensational drive being completed with Rubens Barrichello from Sao Paulo, Brazil, winning for Ferrari, and he's done it! Superb! And look at the reception he gets. Michael Schumacher and Corinna, his wife, are almost as pleased for Schumacher for Barrichello as he would have been for himself. Hakkinen finishes in second position. David Coulthard there is in fourth. He's in third position. Jenson Button, look at him closing up on the McLaren. Finishes higher in a Grand Prix than he's finished before. 2 fifth places and now a 4th. And Salo is 5th with Pedro de la Rosa in 6th position. Both the Williams cars are in the top 7 because Ralf Schumacher is in 7th place. And John Todt, the boss of Ferrari, with Ross Brawn and the euphoric Ferrari team, can hardly believe their luck, but it was deserved.
Well, Rubens Barrichello's waited a long time for that first win, but what a quality win when it came. Absolutely brilliant performance from 18th on the grid through one of the weirdest Grand Prix you'll ever see. Rain, shine, a man wandering over the track, safety cars, he kept his head, and then when he needed some confidence to take that first win, he had it splashing around, rooster tails coming out of the back of the car on slicks as he passed his pit each time, and he stuck with it. James.
Ross Brawn, you're actually crying today. What an extraordinary motor racing. What's Rubens done for you today?
Well, it was his decision to stay out. We talked about it over the radio and we realised it was worth a chance, and he said, no, let me go. Let's try it. And it was just fantastic. There was a few points when it was tough, but then when we saw how much Hakkinen was struggling in T2, we realised we could do it. It's just a matter of not falling off.
And he's kept Michael in the championship, of course.
Yeah, I guess yes. Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that, but it was fantastic.
Well, on a serious note, though, Ross, what about the nutter that walked on the track? That must never be allowed to happen again, must it?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously very, very dangerous. I mean, the trouble is the public do have access, particularly a place like this, because it's in the forest. So, no, that must never be allowed to happen if we can prevent it.
Just sum up in a few words for us the skill of Rubens Barrichello, what he achieved out there today.
Well, he had everything. I mean, he had patience, so he worked his way up through the grid. We took a 2-stop because we thought it was worth a chance. And he called the decision for tyres at the end, to stay out and give it a go. And he just drove a perfect race.
A magnificent turnaround. Well done, Ross.
Superstar Rubino, Rubens Barrichello, look at the joy on his face. And in this incredible race, Michael Schumacher, who has not scored points for the last 3 races, still leads the championship And Coulthard and Hakkinen are tying with each other, 2 points behind Michael Schumacher. 56 points for Schumacher, 54 points for Coulthard and Hakkinen, and Rubens Barrichello is only 10 points now behind Michael Schumacher. What? This has had it all.
Well, in the next door comedy box are the Brazilian commentators, and they are absolutely, as you can imagine, ecstatic. That must be the first Brazilian driver, Brazilian win since Senna won back in '93 for McLaren.
Yeah, that's right. And Luciano Berti, the Jaguar driver, who substituted for Eddie Irvine so superbly in Austria, is standing with just the width of the glass between us. And is he a happy boy? Because he's a great friend of Rubens Barrichello's and lived until recently in the same house with the young Brazilian.
Well, Michael will be very pleased. That certainly saved a part of his day at least. And Rubens Barrichello waited 123 races for this win. So well done to him. I can't think of anybody who will not be happy about that in the Formula One paddock.
No, as I said earlier on, he really is a charming person. You don't hear a hard word about him from anyone.
With the possible exception of some McLaren people, of course.
Well, absolutely. But they won't be unpleasant words because he richly deserved that victory. And to recap, Rubens Barrichello wins the 11th race in this superb World Championship Series of the year 2000 by 7.4 seconds from Mika Hakkinen. He beat him fair and square. You heard Ross Brawn saying that Rubens made the decision about whether he would stay on dry weather tyres or come in for wet weather tyres. He made it right. He beat Hakkinen, but McLaren are now leading the Constructors' World Championship, which is some recompense, as a delighted Michael Schumacher joins a euphoric Rubens Barrichello, who I do believe is in tears.
Not strictly legal, you're not allowed to be in the Parc Fermé, but I don't think anybody will mind too much with Michael going in there and enjoying that moment. Coulthard and Barrichello used to fight hammer and nail in the British Formula 3 Championship, of course. Barrichello just taking it from Coulthard, and now this is Barrichello's day.
Lovely bit of sportsmanship from Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. And one has to say that it might well have been a very different result if that nutter had not taken it in his mind to go wandering about the track. But, you know, it was the same for everyone, and Rubens Barrichello saw his chances and he took it. This young man who comes from Sao Paulo, cut his teeth on kart racing. He lives just a few hundred yards from the Interlagos circuit, where he used to watch his heroes as a boy, little realising that he would become as good as them. And he joins the greats. Not many people have won a Grand Prix race, and our own James Allen is talking to Michael Schumacher to get his reaction. But let's spare a word too for Jenson Button, because whilst Rubens Barrichello came up from 18th to win the race, the best performance of the day, Jenson Button cut him very close indeed. He started 22nd and last. There he is on the right of your pictures now, standing on the scales, and he finishes in 4th position for 3 World Championship.
And look at this body language here. 124 races to get the win tonight. The Brazilian flag, obviously very, very popular. Great pictures.
Absolutely fantastic, and what a great way to win your first Grand Prix from way back in 17th or 18th to come through like that. I mean, it was just absolutely fantastic.
Look at the emotion just pouring out of the man. Here's the national anthem. Yeah. We'll have the anthem now for the constructor. Here we go. Hey, sports about pictures, and tell me better pictures than that. And there's been plenty of knockers at Formula One in magazines, television stations, radio stations. Give yourselves an uppercut. If you can't enjoy that race tonight, you can't enjoy Formula One. More passing than I've seen in 2 years.
It was absolutely fantastic. But how emotional. I mean, it's just nothing like the old Italians to bring out a bit of emotion.
Yeah.
You know, up there, you know, national anthem, just absolutely fabulous.
But the two McLaren boys too, I mean, obviously they all get on well because they've really, I think, you know, if they can't win it, they wanted to see him win it.
Well, it's pretty obvious, I think, isn't it? But look at old Mika. He's been there 100 times before. He's a bit bemused by it all, I think.
Yeah, terrific stuff. 124 races for his first ever win.
And what a good one it was, too.
18th position if you've just come home and turned it on, and he just fought his way through. Had a bit of luck, a few controversial situations in the race, but you make your own luck. Champions do that, and this has just been one hell of a race tonight.
Nice pair of red trousers there, Des. You looking in them.
You're the one that wore the red undies, not me. Massive crowd, pouring rain, stood there, first win, and gee, what a result for Ferrari. I mean, after Schumacher going out on lap one, they would have just said time to go home. This bloke has delivered.
I think it's a wonderful result all the way around. It's given Barrichello his first Grand Prix win. You're satisfied. We've had a Ferrari win. And now what we've done is we've had McLaren and the two McLaren drivers close right up on Schumacher. So it really does throw the championship right open.
Hard to believe. Schumacher, 4 non-finishes this year, 3 in a row, no points.
Yeah, you can't afford to do that. I mean, he had such a commanding lead earlier on, and he's just absolutely seeing it whittle away.
Look at this. We haven't seen pictures like this for years. I love it. This is great. Wow, good stuff out of Germany. Sensational. AJ, let's recap the results.
Thanks, Daz. Well, the first up win for Rubens Barrichello for Ferrari. Mika Hakkinen and his teammate David Coulthard second and third for McLaren. Jenson Button, great drive from him. More points in fourth for Williams. Mika Salo fifth. Pedro de la Rosa in sixth for Arrows. Drivers' Championship. Well, Schumacher still leads, but only by 2 points now from Coulthard and Hakkinen. Barrichello in fourth, Fisichella fifth, and Ralf Schumacher in sixth. Constructors' Championship, Ferrari now still leading 102 over McLaren's 98, Williams with 22, Benetton 18, BAR 12 and Jordan 11.
How good's this? You know, constructors all crowded at the top. We've got the Drivers' Championship crowded at the top.
Well, it's going to be absolutely fascinating because what does Ron Dennis do now? He's got both his drivers on almost at the same points, 2 points away from leading the championship. It's going to make some very difficult decisions in the next couple of Grand Prix.
No doubt about it. We'll take a break, come back with all the drivers' interviews. Stay with us.
And it's welcome to the top 3 drivers of a fantastic German Grand Prix. It's Rubens Barrichello, Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. Rubens, you said yesterday that it was the worst day of the year. I expect today must be the best day of your life. From 18th place to your first win, 123 starts. How do you feel?
Well, I just feel great. I mean, it was... I mean, I hear the guys saying that the last lap when you're going to win, you know, is such a long lap, and you know, I had lost the taste almost because it was such a long time ago. So it was really the longest one, and I promise you that it was getting a bit more tricky because the rain was coming in separate places, and I was just thinking to myself, you know, that it has to be mine. I mean, yesterday was such a bad day, and it can be good, so let's make it as simple as possible, and I couldn't believe. I'm just, I can't believe my eyes too.
Now, obviously, the race was won by your decision to stay out on the slick tyres, groove tyres at the end. Who made that decision?
Hey, I mean, we are a team. We are a big family, and Ross said, Mika is coming, and I said, we keep an eye, and let's stay one lap more. And after that lap, he said, just keep on going, Rubens. You're gonna win if you keep that pace. So I mean, it was great because the slicks were doing really well on the straights and the 3 chicanes. But I think it was 7 or 6 laps to go. I flat spot the left front on the 3rd chicane because it was speeding a little bit. So it was worrying because I couldn't see the track very well. But you know, I paid the price, so it was great.
Now, you made a lot of positions up with a blistering first run to your first pit stop, but that included obviously that first corner incident where your teammate Michael was taken off. How did you see that first lap?
Well, to be honest with you, I only saw that Michael was out of the race when I got close to Pedro de la Rosa and Trulli, because then I started to count. I was too busy at that time. Then I just realized that he wasn't on the track.
Rubens, thanks so many. Congratulations. Mika, you managed to vault yourself from 4th to 1st at the start there. How did you make such a good start?
It was fantastic start. I have to admit, it's something like that doesn't happen often. I mean, certainly me and David, we do practice that a lot in the test days, but this was one of the starts what was definitely goes in record books in my career. I think thanks for the team. You know, it was also part of the team who created the tactic for the start. That way, I'm able to make a good start, and I knew that. You know, if I don't get in a good position in the first corner, then the life's gonna be very difficult after that. But it worked. Thanks.
You almost had the race won when at the beginning of the first safety car period, you came in the pits and David didn't. Now, whose call was that? Because in the past, we've heard the man on pole position gets first call of pit stops.
Well, the team called me in, and I have to obviously follow that order, and the decision came to my favor. I still a little bit surprised, to be honest. I mean, it probably could do a little bit differently, but after all, you know, it was in my favor, and that's it, really.
Looking back now, do you think it was the right decision to change to wet tyres at the end of the race?
One sense, if you think about it, I could be on a barrier. If I would have kept the slicks, I would have go off. I mean, our car was a quick car today, but not easy to drive. So if we would have continued in slicks, our life would have been really, really difficult. So, other hand, you could say, we had to be extremely happy about this result.
Mika, thank you and well done.
Thanks.
David, at the start, you made a very definite one move across Michael Schumacher. Was that revenge?
No, I just got too much wheel spin and no. And I knew I was making a bad start from when I went off the line, so I just wanted to try and make it obviously as difficult as we're allowed for someone to pass me. But in the end, I don't actually know how close anyone else was behind me. All I saw was Mika passing me.
How frustrated were you sitting behind the safety car, that first safety car, knowing everybody else had changed their tyres, you hadn't? It looked at that point like you'd be lucky to score any points, and that the team had called Mika in rather than you.
Well, that's maybe how it appears. In actual fact, it was just a little bit of confusion on my part. I was pitting that lap anyway, and I didn't hear the radio in the pit in the what do you call it? Stadium. And then Mika pitted in front of me, and at that point I didn't know the safety car was out, so I thought there must be some confusion as to who's actually pitting. So that's why I continued on past, and then I realised the safety car was out. So it's just unfortunate, one of those days when just didn't quite work out. But equally, it could have been a big help had I stopped in that lap. But there you go. You know, I'm still happy to be sitting here with points and getting closer to the championship leader.
You waited a couple of laps after Mika to change onto wets at the end of the race. Why was that? Because obviously Rubens was able to carry on the grooves with no problems.
Well, I think you're being too simplistic to say he was continuing with no problems. I'm sure from his point of view it was probably incredibly difficult, like it was for everyone else. I wanted to wait, like Ruben said earlier, to find out exactly what the lap time difference was. And then it just got to the point I made a decision just one corner before I got to the pit lane. So it was quite a late call, but I just thought, well, look, this is getting pretty wet here. It looked to me like the rain was flowing right down towards the chicanes. So I thought it might just be the way to go, because if you're only doing tyres, then obviously there's not as big a loss of time as if you're doing fuel as well. I don't know where I would have finished had I stayed on slicks, but certainly at that point when I pitted, I think I was in 5th place or 4th place, and I'm now 3rd. So it's a better for the championship the way it's finished out than the way it was running before the safety car. Because obviously I would have been maybe a little bit closer to Michael or equal with him, but slightly farther away from Mika.
Thank you, David. Well done. Rubens, you're now just 10 points behind championship leader Michael Schumacher. You're in 4th place, but do you feel you're now with a shout for the World Championship?
Hey, let's talk about this win. I mean, it's been a long time, and it's great to work with Ferrari. I mean, it's really, everybody is keeping saying number 1, number 2. It doesn't matter. I mean, they give me the car, and the car works perfect. I mean, I was lucky today that it was an accident on the first lap, and the strategy worked out. But it's let's just make some party tonight and enjoy the timing.